Carlos King, the mastermind behind some of reality TV's biggest hits, may have quietly cut loose one of his most genuine and respected couples, Maurice and Kimmi Scott, and not with a dramatic announcement, but through a cold contract clause that allowed pre-floor production to slowly erase them without warning. This situation hits especially hard because it comes at a time when viewers are already frustrated with cast members like Robin, who admitted on her podcast that she hid major parts of her real life while feeding the audience. Watered-down storylines and exaggerated drama, including the messy Chris Bassett situation that was allegedly planned before filming even began. In contrast, Maurice and Kimmi built their place on the show through authenticity, not theatrics. They were the couple people rooted for navigating blended family struggles, careers, finances, and even Kimmi's cancer battle with honesty and grace. But reality TV only loves real until it stops pulling ratings. Over time, the Scotts were given less screen time, pressured to open up deeper wounds, and pushed toward conflict they didn't want to create. When Kimmi said she didn't want to film certain deeply personal topics anymore, and Maurice refused to sensationalize their marriage for camera time. Production reportedly used their short leash contract clause to quietly phase them out. Fans noticed their shrinking presence and defended them as the only couple still living real life on camera. But the show chose chaos over authenticity. Friends say Kimmi felt both relieved and hurt by how it unfolded. She shared her vulnerability with millions. Yet, when she needed space, the show gave her distance. Maurice was more accepting of stepping away, but frustrated that viewers might assume they simply walked out when the truth was far more complicated. Instead of a proper farewell, they just faded into silence, their exit controlled by paperwork instead of dignity. This didn't only affect their careers, it weighed on their marriage. Because being told your life isn't entertaining enough can change how a couple communicates, argues, and even loves. Whether this is the end of their time on Love and Marriage, Huntsville, is unclear. But it may be the beginning of something better. Something where they get to share their lives on their own terms, without producers pushing trauma and conflict for views. At the end of the day, Carlos King may have made a business decision. But it also showed just how cold the reality TV industry can be, using people's truths for content and discarding them when their peace becomes more important than the storyline. The question now is simple. Was this a smart producing move, or the loss of the realest couple the show ever had? And while fans are still debating what really happened behind the scenes, one thing is becoming painfully clear. Reality TV may claim to show real life. But the moment real life doesn't serve the storyline, it gets edited out. That's the part nobody talks about, the emotional toll of being good, honest and transparent in a world that profits off chaos. Maurice and Kimmi weren't dramatic enough. They weren't willing to stage arguments, and they refused to tear each other apart just to maintain camera time. Their biggest flaw was choosing peace over performance. And ironically, that's what made them stand out in the first place. While other cast members were creating scandal, faking plots, or building entire seasons off rumors and alliances, the Scotts were showing what an actual marriage looks like, one with ups and downs, quiet moments, compromises, and real healing. But healing doesn't trend. Peace doesn't sell. Growth doesn't get retweeted. Reality TV claims to want authenticity, but it only rewards destruction. And that's where the show started losing its heart. Fans didn't just connect with Maurice and Kimmi because they were entertaining. They connected because they were real people living through real challenges, not puppets performing for the cameras. Now, as people watch new episodes, the energy feels different. Viewers keep saying the show is missing something, that spark of truth, that emotional depth, that couple everyone respected. Without the Scotts, the show feels heavier, messier, and more manufactured than ever. It's becoming harder for fans to believe what they're seeing, and even harder to care. And that's the real danger here, when a production pushes out its most genuine personalities. It doesn't just lose cast members, it loses trust. But here's the twist. This quiet exit might be the best thing that ever happened to Maurice and Kimmi, stepping away from a show that demands more pain, More conflict and more emotional sacrifice could finally give them space to breathe again. They've carried heavy storylines for years, shared private moments that most people would never dare reveal, and opened up their family to the world in ways that took strength most will never understand. Maybe now they can finally live without the pressure of turning every moment into content. Maybe now they can rebuild their peace, their privacy, and their marriage away from the cameras. And who knows? Maybe this is the beginning of a new chapter one where they control the narrative instead of being controlled by it. Because if anyone deserves to tell their story their way, it's Maurice and Kimmi Scott. And if we're being honest, this moment might finally force the industry to confront a bigger issue. How far is too far when it comes to exploiting people's real lives for entertainment? Maurice and Kimmi's situation exposes a pattern that viewers have been side-eyeing for years once a couple stops feeding the chaos. Producers treat them like they've stopped being valuable. But what does that say about the system behind these shows? It says that peace isn't profitable, stability isn't marketable, and genuine relationships are often sacrificed for the next explosive moment. Instead of rewarding honesty, reality TV punishes it. Instead of protecting the cast that opened their lives to millions, production squeezes them for every emotional drop they can get until there's nothing left to give. And that's why so many fans feel uncomfortable now. Because losing the Scotts doesn't just change the cast lineup, it changes the entire spirit of the show. They were the emotional anchor, the balance, the reality check. Without them, the series feels like it's drifting into a world of rehearsed arguments and forced drama. It's giving storyline over substance, shock value over sincerity. Fans can feel that shift even if they can't always put it into words. The warmth is missing. The heart is missing. The authenticity is missing. And while production might think viewers just want fights and screaming matches, the truth is, people also want someone to believe in. Someone who reminds them that marriage isn't just chaos's work. Healing, love, and real life. That's what the Scotts brought. And that's what the show lost now. The question becomes, what happens next? Will Carlos King and the producers realize the gap they've created? Or will they double down on sensationalism? Will the cast step up and demand more honesty? Or will they follow the pattern of manufactured drama to stay relevant? And most importantly, will fans continue tuning in to a show that no longer feels rooted in truth? Meanwhile, Maurice and Kimmi stand on the edge of a new beginning, one they didn't ask for but may ultimately benefit from. Without production dictating what to share, how to react, or when to cry, they finally have the freedom to rebuild their lives at their own pace. They don't owe the